enough an owl? Like, this is one of the craziest ideas that I have seen on Montreal sports talk radio that I just had to go out there and respond to it. Today we are talking about the Montreal Canadiens 2024 NHL Draft plans and the options that they have at the current 5th overall spot. Now, the thing is, when it comes to this 5th overall pick, I think a lot of Canadiens fans have bubbled around some of the same guys. Like, we've made videos about many of these potential Canadiens targets, and based off of the comment section and based off of the amount of views that these videos get, it seems like Canadiens fans have a clear preference here. And I'm generalizing, but I'll say that most Montreal Canadiens fans, based off of what I've seen, want to see the team draft Caden Lindstrom in the 5th overall spot. He's a big dude, he could fit in with Slafkovsky, he's been talking about Slafkovsky and Cole Caulfield, and if he is a center on this team, he could be a true number 1, which could allow Nick Suzuki to absolutely feast on whomever it is he has the luxury of playing second-line center minutes against. Or even there could be a 1A, 1B situation, there could be flexibility there, you know, options are always a good thing, right? But if it's not Caden Lindstrom, I think a lot of Canadiens fans have been tossing around the names of T.J. Ginla, Ivan Demidov, other guys that have been rotating around Berkeley. Catton is another. But today we are talking about the idea of the Montreal Canadiens, according to Georges Laraque, needing, and that's the key word here, needing to draft one of Caden Lindstrom or Ivan Demidov, the Russian projected 2nd overall pick in this year's draft. Now, the thing is, Montreal is at number 5, so you have no real guarantee if a guy like Demidov or Lindstrom is even going to be available where you pick. Which is why Georges Laraque goes out there and brings up a different idea. Take a look at this article published on HabsFanatics.com. It was published by Elias, it just says Elias, and I will leave a link in the description here, but it essentially goes over some of the comments made by Georges Laraque on BPM Sports Talk Radio. I like this article because it has it written out, we can screenshot it so it's easier to follow along. But take a look at this. Since we had learned that the Canadiens are going to be drafting 5th overall, many are wondering what Kent Hughes will do with this pick, including BPM Sports Radio host Georges Laraque and Stefan Gonzalez. During a recent edition of their midday show, the two buddies discussed the differing options the Canadiens have available to them, and the two guys agreed on one thing: the Montreal Canadiens must absolutely aim for Caden Lindstrom. If the Habs don't come out of the draft with Lindstrom or Demidov, it would be a failure, Georges Laraque said. Kent Hughes must do everything to select one of the two. Now, the thing is, I don't think a lot of Canadiens fans would necessarily disagree. I mean, there are other guys you could take at number 5, a lot of guys that are projected top 5 picks even, but the question is, would they be the best pick the Canadiens could get? Do you need another left-handed defenseman? Probably not. This year's selection of guys is really putting the D in draft. There are a ton of guys that could be taken towards the top that are on the blue line, but the Canadiens probably don't benefit much from taking that. So, with this in mind, if you go forward, is it really necessary that one of these guys is your target? Now, the guys on BPM then talk about a few ideas. The two hosts stated that the 5th overall pick plus the Winnipeg Jets pick, which is late first round, might be sufficient and fair. However, Stefan Gonzalez would prefer the Canadiens to give up a defenseman and keep the Jets' late pick. They then played a little game where Georges Laraque improvised as the Canadiens GM and Gonzalez as the Blue Jackets GM. Now, FYI, Columbus is drafting number 4, they're one pick ahead of Montreal, so if you wanted to project any trade proposals with Columbus, the prize would be moving from number 5 to number 4. At that moment, Georges Laraque gave in. He would be open to giving up the 5th overall pick and Josh Waugh to ensure obtaining Caden Lindstrom. The trade goes as follows. Columbus would give up their 1st, which is 4th overall, and Montreal would give up their 1st, which is 5th overall, plus Waugh. Now, Gonzalez then returned to his role as a radio host, admitting that Josh Waugh is a really steep price to move up one spot in the draft. He would either opt for a 2nd-round pick instead or try to trade Philip Meshar. However, we don't know if Columbus could be tempted by this idea. Now, the video segment in which the BPM guys talked about this is linked in the article Repage du Canadien avancé ou... Okay, we're not going to read that. I can't read French. I apologize. But I wanted to toss this idea out there to you. Montreal, they have to draft one of these guys. You have to move up in the draft. If it's Columbus, you're trying to go from 5 to 4. Firstly, my question here is that an appropriate spot? If you want to get Lindstrom or Demidov, does moving up to 4 guarantee you getting that? We know San Jose is going to take Macklin Celebrini first overall. That's a no-brainer. Who does Chicago take at number 2? Do they go with Demidov? Do they go with Lindstrom themselves, or do they take a defenseman? There's been a lot of buzz lately as to whether or not Chicago could get themselves another top-tier blue liner to go with Kevin Korchinski and Alex Vlasic. There are a bunch in this draft. Artyom Levshunov is available, Sam Dickinson, Zane Parekh, Buyem, lots of guys on the blue line. After Chicago, things get a little bit easier to go with. I mean, Anaheim. There's a lot of potential on Anaheim's blue line already, but then again, you could say the same thing about their forward core. Leo Carlsson, Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish, do they want another top-tier forward to play with these guys? And then Columbus is number 4. Now the question is, can you guarantee that the 2023 draft has an order in the top 3 that does not include both Demidov and Lindstrom? If you're Montreal, can you make that guarantee? Can you buy that Chicago is indeed going to draft a defenseman? What if Chicago shocks the world and just says, okay, we'll go with Demidov. Bedard Demidov, let's go. And then Anaheim is like, okay, we like big, powerful dudes. We like Cutter Gauthier and Leo Carlsson. Let's take another. Let's get Caden Lindstrom. What if Montreal goes from 5 to 4, only to find that Celebrini, Lindstrom, and Demidov are not on the board? And then the question becomes, okay, the next guy available is a defenseman. Do you really want to reach for a guy like Berkeley Catton at number 4? Do you want to go with a defenseman just because you want to go BPA? That ultimately is the dilemma at number 4. And quite frankly, trading away the price of Josh Waugh to move up that one spot, you could very well say is not worth it. I mean, that's only when you take a look at what Waugh is evaluated as in regards to his 23-24 profile. If you had spoken about Joshua about this like 2-3 years ago, okay, a 5th round guy is the sweetener that you need to go from number 5 to number 4 in the 2024 first round. You would have been like ecstatic. Okay, great. A 5th round pick is all we need to go up one spot. Amazing. But it's Joshua we're talking about, who's a lot better than most 5th overall picks have been. 32 points, 41 games played with Laval this previous season, and 9 points in 23 games with the regular Canadiens when he suited up here. I say here, I'm in Vancouver, what am I talking about? But still, Waugh is a good, talented young piece and could very well become a middle 6 player. If Josh Waugh is the difference between guaranteeing yourself a Caden Lindstrom versus a Berkeley Catton or something, is that a price that you take? I know a lot of Canadiens fans, especially in our comment section, have been talking about Berkeley Catton as the primary guy anyway. So Georges Laraque's idea of needing to draft a Demidov or a Lindstrom might not even resonate with y'all. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Firstly, what is your primary objective in the 2024 NHL Draft? Is it just to sit back and let whomever it is at number 5 present itself and have Kent Hughes draft them? Or is it to trade up and guarantee yourselves a specific guy in the draft? Who is that specific guy? And if it is a guy like Demidov or Lindstrom, is it a guarantee that if you draft 4th overall, you're going to get one of these guys? How can you be so sure that Chicago is not going to take a defenseman or go against the grain and just take another forward? What's your thought process on that? I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, what the Montreal Canadiens' point of view should be when looking at the top 5 picks in this year's draft, and whether or not a guy like Josh Waugh is somebody you'd give up in some sort of a trade to move up. Georges Laraque seems to think so, and he's a guy on Sports Talk Radio, which is why I thought this was an interesting idea to go out there and bring up in this video. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.